Thank you for joining this week's episode of Science Periodically, the show where you get a nice break while learning about the School of Science. My name is Dustin Ryder, and I will be your host today. I'm a forensic science and biology major here at IUPUI. So while it's easy to look up information on a website, it's a lot harder to kind of get a true feel for what it's actually like to study at a university. So we recognize that this is also a little bit harder right now, given social distancing and COVID restrictions, which is why I'm here today with you folks. So I'm also a senior at the School of Science and know what it's really like. So today is the first of 3 Science Periodically JagDays hosted by me that are designed to give you the student perspective of studying science at IUPUI. So today's topic is career and pre-professional options and with a science degree. And I've asked some School of Science experts to join me today to talk about your options and what it's really like to be a pre-professional student. Our science preps director and career and pre-professional advisor, Jamie Sparandio, will join us to share the amazing resources that are available to you while looking for an internship, full-time employment, or applying to professional or medical school. Then we'll be joined by current pre-professional science students, Satya, who is interested in pre-vet, and Caroline, who is pursuing pre-med, who will share their experiences and answer any questions that you guys may have. So before we head into that, I want to start by sharing some of the good news here in the School of Science. So you may have heard that U.S. News and World Reports recently recognized IUPUI for our commitment to undergraduate education. We were ranked number 49 in the nation, and we're pretty proud of that. So most of your classes here will be taught by full-time faculty. We also have some pretty amazing faculty who are also active researchers. I would also actually like to highlight 2 of them today who are recipients of the Research Frontiers Trailblazer Award, which recognizes professors who have made exceptional contributions to research in their field. First, we have Dr. Christine Picard. She is not only a biology and forensics professor, but the director of the forensic science program as well. Dr. Picard dedicates her research to forensically important insects such as blowflies. The main focus of Picard's lab is determining the correlations between observable differences and DNA across populations of insects. Now, next up, we've got Dr. Wong. He is an earth sciences professor who works to better understand how changes in climate and other environmental factors impact vegetation dynamics. So without agriculture, there's really no food. And right now, agriculture is one of the largest contributors of greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere and extra nutrients to the aquatic ecosystems. So both of those have negative impacts on our environment, like amplifying climate variability and algae blooms. So the goal of this research will focus on reducing the environmental footprint of agriculture while making sure there is sustainable food production. And you guys probably know, because we talk about it all the time, but the opportunity to get involved in research as early as your freshman year is something we consider kind of a core experience here at IUPUI. So you guys are able to use your classroom learning in the real world environment and make a difference. Not to mention, it also looks really great on resumes, professional and graduate school resumes as well. Now, lastly, we wanted to tell you about our newest science building, Innovation Hall. It's opening to classes this spring semester and contains many new teaching labs and classrooms, including organic chemistry, biology, and neuroscience teaching labs. I can hear my dog in the background. I'm so sorry if you guys can hear that. So these are going to have brand new state-of-the-art equipment. The first floor has 3 large classrooms, including a lecture hall with stadium seating and a football-shaped classroom with the lecturer in the middle to encourage collaboration. Our computer science has labs on the 2nd floor, and those teaching labs can also be found on the 3rd floor. Now with that, the news section for today's episode has come to a close, bringing us to the best part of Science Periodically. Today's topic is internships, employment, and pre-professional studies. Given the competitive job market, choosing a science major is a really great idea. So science majors have more opportunities and earn more money than other majors, and an IUPUI science education will provide you with the critical thinking and soft skills that employers do seek. Now, our guest, Jamie Sparandio, as you can see on my screen right now, she's an expert on that topic. Jamie is the director of pre-professional and career advising in the Science Preps office here at the School of Science. Jamie will kind of give a brief presentation, and then we'll be joined by a couple of friends of mine here at the School of Science to answer any questions you guys might have. So if you have any questions, we do have a Q&A tab that you guys are able to find. Should be at the bottom of your screen. And if you want to put those questions in there, we'll answer them on our panel discussion after Jamie's presentation. So Jamie, are you there? You want to turn your camera on? Perfect. So
I am. Thanks, Dustin.
perfect. All right. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing because I was told you have a presentation.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
And can you hear my dog singing in the background?
I can, and if we're lucky, my dog might join in if she hears it.
All right. So
While
I'm going to let you get started on that presentation, and I'm going to take them outside. So.
All right, thanks. So today I'm going to talk about the PREPS office, which is the area in the School of Science that supports students in relation to pre-professional and career preparation. So one of the first things that I really want to make sure that everyone is aware of is that in the School of Science, you really can do anything with any major. So about 20% of our undergraduate students are currently pursuing pathways in medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, or other professional school goals. About a third of our graduates go on to achieve advanced degrees, master's, PhDs, other doctoral level degrees, and about 60% of our students are employed within 6 months of graduation. So regardless of what your goals are, you really can do all of that through the School of Science at IUPUI. So one of the things that my office does is support science students as they pursue their academic and career goals. So whether that's a freshman just exploring career options, or a junior or a senior working on their professional school application, and kind of the entire gamut in between, my office is here to help. And so that extends past graduation. As a School of Science alum, you have access to our services after graduation forever. From our individual advising workshops, our online resources, our career and graduate program fairs, School of Science students are fully supported while pursuing their goals. And unlike some other large universities, our office only serves students within the School of Science and the Honors College, meaning that students are never limited to the number or type of appointment, and they won't have to jump through hoops just to get in to see us. We also offer elective coursework. Our elective courses allow students to explore health professions, receive credits for internships, and even prep for the MCAT or the DAT. And we just launched Handshake, actually this month, which is a modern career services platform that connects IUPUI students to jobs, internships, employer events, and on-campus interviewing. So we're really excited about that platform as well. When it comes to internships, they are a valuable experience for any student, and science students at IUPUI have the opportunity to intern at cutting-edge companies all over Indiana, and the US. We even have an internship scholarship available to help students who might not otherwise be able to participate in an internship due to their financial situation. The campus has a number of career events throughout the year. These are designed to connect students with the opportunities in various fields. We bring hundreds of employers to campus each year to recruit talent. This includes both our fall and spring STEM career and internship fair, as well as lots of other events across campus, like the fall internship fair, the nonprofit expo, and part-time job fair. And this is really important because the School of Science awards degrees from Purdue University. Our students have the ability to attend the Purdue Industrial Roundtables each fall. We actually usually, when it's in person, take a bus of students up to the Purdue campus, where more than 400 employers participate each year to recruit top STEM talent. And similarly, since IUPUI is part of the IU system, all IUPUI students are able to attend career events at all IU campuses. So you really do get the best of three amazing institutions by being connected to the School of Science at IUPUI. When it comes to pre-professional assistance, PREPS provides outstanding support to help you achieve your goals of attending medical school or any other professional program. From learning what courses to take, to finding experiential learning opportunities, and even support for prepping for entrance exams like the MCAT and the DAT, my office is here to help. And we know that it works. So for the fall 2020 entry, School of Science applicants to MD medical schools who obtained feedback on their application from a PREPS advisor were accepted at a rate of 57%. Now that may not sound high, but it's 24% higher than School of Science applicants who didn't come to our office before submitting their application. And it's 15% above the national acceptance rate. So the national acceptance rate for med school is about 42%. So we're really excited about that. So for pre-professional students, oftentimes, we get asked, why science? There are lots of possible majors that you could choose and degrees. So why choose a degree in the School of Science? And so national admissions data from our most common pathways makes it clear. The majority of students who are accepted into these programs come from a science background. That makes a lot of sense when you think about the kind of coursework that you'll be pursuing in these graduate programs. It also makes sense when you think about the demands of a science degree. So most of our science majors are going to be taking 2 to 3 science courses with a lab each semester, and that best prepares students for the rigor and pace of programs like medical and dental school. Don't let the data fool you though. You don't have to be a biology major to be successful. In fact, since professional programs typically don't require specific undergraduate degrees, what you will find is that they require specific coursework. And we call these the prerequisite courses. And as you can see, they are all science and math. In fact, all of the professional programs require between 50 and 65 credit hours of science coursework taken at the level of a science major. Most of this coursework is already part of our degree plans, meaning the majority of our students don't have to take any coursework outside of their degree plan to simultaneously prepare for a professional program of their choice. In fact, nearly every School of Science degree, with the exception of environmental science and geology, can complete the prerequisite coursework for any of the pre-professional pathways and still graduate in 4 years. And that's without including AP credit or dual credit from high school. Coursework is important. There's no doubt about that. Most programs' average GPA for accepted students is between a 3.5 and a 3.7, both cumulative and for the science GPA. But there's a lot more that's important to these types of programs, graduate programs, and employers. So in addition to a strong science background, they're going to be looking for well-rounded students. That means they expect students to get involved and develop themselves outside of the classroom. As an urban, research-heavy campus, IUPUI has everything you need to get engaged and make an impact. Students have the opportunity to join and lead organizations. And if you don't find a club that you are looking for, you can always start a new one. One of the experiences that we encourage all science majors to take part in, especially our pre-professional students, is undergraduate research. Students have the opportunity to get involved in research as early as their freshman year, which isn't always possible at many research-heavy campuses. And with the IU School of Medicine and the IU School of Dentistry physically located on our campus, students have literally hundreds of options. And we make it easy for students to get connected to research, including opportunities like the Life Health Sciences Internship Program, the MURI program, and DSRP, which is our Diversity Scholars Research Program. And all of these are paid opportunities. In addition, we have 5 hospitals within walking distance or shuttle distance on rainy days, where students can find volunteer opportunities, paid positions like patient care technician or medical scribing, and healthcare providers to shadow. I also want to point out that the academic resources, many of our students take advantage of those, but what I haven't talked about is the fact that those programs also support students through providing opportunities for employment. So it gives students an opportunity to assist their peers, along with other opportunities like being a teaching assistant or a recitation leader. And again, many of those positions are paid as well. Service is another really big area for students, and we have opportunities for our students to get involved in the Indianapolis community, as well as domestic and international service trips. I often tell students that everyone's pathway is unique, and with all of the opportunities that IUPUI and the School of Science provide, every student can find their way to get engaged. So I did notice, see, this is why when I'm sharing my screen, it's hard to find the chat. Dustin, was there a question in the chat?
It was actually just Lori mentioning that the attendees are more than welcome to send in. Oh, well, actually, we just got one in the Q&A, so perfect timing, Jamie. So it's actually, they were talking, I've heard that you have a healthcare shadowing class. Do we get to choose who we shadow, and is that on campus?
So that is an excellent question. There is a healthcare shadowing class. Yes, you get to choose who you shadow. And it may or may not be on campus. So the way that the course works is students are required to find a healthcare provider to shadow. Our office has a list of connections to individuals that are somewhat close to campus. So some of them might be, for example, at University Hospital, which is directly across the street from my office. Some of them might be at Eskenazi or at Methodist, which is, again, like within a mile of campus, so not terribly far. But students have the opportunity to shadow anybody that they want. So that could be an individual who is, on the other side of town. If perhaps maybe you live in Fishers and are commuting to campus, you can shadow anybody that you want. And the purpose of the course is to kind of help students make those connections and then make meaning of some of the things that they're learning as they go through that shadowing opportunity. So it's typically not open to freshmen, but we do allow students to apply for the course the second semester of their freshman year so that they can take it either that summer after their freshman year, or if they want to take it as a sophomore. And actually, this is the end of my slides, Dustin. So I don't know if you want me to just leave this up or if you want to transition to, I don't know if you've got slides on Caroline and Satya that you want to throw up.
I actually don't. You are more than welcome to stop sharing your screen though, if you'd like. So this is actually perfect time. Thank you, Jamie, for that. So let's actually get started on the student portion of today's episode. Jamie will still also be here because I do see a couple questions for her as well. So we have Satya and Caroline here today. So Satya and Caroline, if you guys want to turn your video on, awesome. I can see both of you. Thank you. So can you guys tell us a little about yourself? So Satya, if you want to start, and then Caroline following. So maybe just like your major, your hometown, future plans, things like that.
Yeah, so my major is biology. So I'm a Bachelor of Science in Biology and a Bachelor's of Arts in Chemistry. My hometown, well, I'm originally from India, but I grew up in Dubai, which is in the Middle East. So yeah, I'm an international student in the US. And my plans for the future is to go to vet school. As it stands right now, my plan is to go to Australia for vet school. So hopefully that pans out.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. I've never been to Australia. That would be like really cool if you went there. I'd love to hear about that. Yeah, so I'm Caroline. So my major is neuroscience. I'm on a pre-med track. So I'm studying for my MCAT like right now. Like I just got done. I'm like all stressed, but it's really exciting. So hopefully I can apply to medical school this year and, get in. That's the goal. See, I'm from New Palestine. It's like a super small town, kind of, I think like 20 minutes east of IUPUI. So I do the whole commuting thing. Works out really well for me. So yeah.
I'm very happy to have both of you here. So before we get more towards asking you guys questions, I do have one that would be a great one for you, Jamie. So it looks like it's about a 2 to 3 parter here. So I want to be a pediatrician, so I wanted to major in biology, but psychology is something that I am more passionate about. Can I get into med school if I major in psychology?
So the answer to that is a resounding yes. You will still need to take biology coursework. So, and Caroline can talk a little bit about this since she's in the process of studying for the MCAT. But there is biology content. There's also chemistry and physics content on the MCAT exam. So you will be taking some of those classes, but we highly encourage students to pick a major that you are interested in, that you're passionate about. And so, yes, you can absolutely do that. You could do a dual major in both biology and psychology if you want to. We have tons of students who are doing that. Or you can do what Caroline's doing, which is the neuroscience major, which is kind of the intersection of biology and psychology. So any of those options will work.
Perfect. So actually, Satya and Caroline are actually both involved in research. So we have a question right here that says, how do we find out about research opportunities? Do we ask our professors? So Caroline, if you want to start us off, kind of let us know how you kind of got involved in research and how you found out about it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm involved in 2 different sites of research right now. One of them, Jamie already kind of talked about a bit, which was the LHSI program, so the Life Health Science Internships, which is a really awesome program, kind of specific to IUPUI that allows students to apply, and you can get a paid internship somewhere, which is really nice. But another one I'm doing is actually with one of our labs that are on campus with Dr. Boehm. He is a neuroscience professor, and I actually did ask him. He was talking about his lab in class, and I was like, man, that sounds pretty cool. So I just wrote him an email. I was like, hey, I would love to, volunteer undergraduate research assistant if you have any spots open. He told me to come meet with him, and now I've been there for a year. So you can definitely ask your professors. They are all so approachable and totally willing to, invite you into their lab if you want. But you can also go through other programs like LHSI.
Thank you, Caroline. Sadia, do you have anything to kind of add about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of asking people if you do well enough in a class and you demonstrate you have some kind of interest in working in that field. The professor, if he's looking for students, he or she's looking for students, he might ask you if you're interested in that sort of thing. So for my chemistry lab, my professor actually asked me if I was interested in doing research with him. But the other lab that I work in, I actually asked a couple of people and then eventually got around to interviewing for that position. So sometimes it's just asking the right people, and you can get the opportunity.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So there's one that says, how many majors and minors can I have? And really, that's completely up to you. It really just depends on the kind of workload that you kind of want to put into. A lot of our majors do overlap. So for example, forensic science and biology, forensic science and chemistry very easily overlap. So again, it's completely up to you and kind of discussing it with your advisor. And if you are pre-professional, one of your advisors would be Jamie, who would also kind of give you advice on that as well. So it really just depends on what you're interested in and kind of a whole lot of other factors. So we've got another question here. Is it as competitive as everyone makes it out to be? So I'm assuming they're talking about pre-professional school. So Jamie, and if you want to kind of start it off on that one.
Yeah, so I mean, it is. And there's a reason for that, right? We want the folks who are going to be going into programs like medicine or dentistry or physical therapy or whatever, to be qualified, competent students. So absolutely, from an academic perspective, it is competitive, and that's why I said average GPAs are somewhere between 3.5, 3.7. The level of competitiveness varies, right? So med school and PA school, very competitive. Pharmacy right now is kind of having a little bit of a decline, so not as competitive. But the whole kind of benefit of having the preps office is, we reach out to students as freshmen and say, here are the things you need to know. These are the courses that you're going to take. Here's everything you need to know to kind of be successful. And we encourage you to check in with us regularly to help make sure that you're following that pathway. So when you get to the point where Caroline and Satya are, where you're getting ready to apply to these programs, you are on that competitive side. But yes, it is. There's no way around it. It is a competitive. I think every graduate program has a certain level of competitiveness.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree to that. So on that topic of graduate programs and things like that, somebody asked, what graduate schools does IUPUI have for pre-professional programs?
So physically on our campus, we have the School of Medicine, the School of Dentistry, the Physician Assistant program, the Physical Therapy program, and the Occupational Therapy program. Bloomington has an optometry program through IU. It's the only one that's on the Bloomington campus. And then Purdue in West Lafayette has the pharmacy program and the vet program. So between those three campuses, all of the major professional options are there. And then if you're looking into something, for example, like genetic counseling or anesthesiology assistant, that's kind of more up and coming, those are also located on, they happen to be located on the Indy campus, but they're located on one of the campuses usually. And the Indy campus has so many just because, we're a metropolitan area. We have a ton of, hospitals and healthcare things. So more of the programs tend to be located physically in Indianapolis than in other places.
Thanks, Jamie. So Caroline, I actually have a question for you in the chat here. So what medical schools are you planning on applying to, Caroline? Do you have any tips for the hard classes, studying, etc.? How do you get through the tough classes?
Yeah, well, so for medical schools, I'd love to go to IU. IU's great, super awesome school, great program. It's close to home, and I'm already kind of familiar with like the way IU does things just from being at IUPUI. Obviously, though, IU is one of the best schools in the country, so it's super competitive. And if I don't get in there, I would honestly take, med school is what I say, man. Like, I'll go wherever, whoever accepts me, I'm there. So that's pretty exciting. I'm more excited than nervous to start applying, honestly. I'm like ready to get it out of my way. I don't have to like have nightmares about it anymore or anything. So yeah, the hard classes, it is hard. Some semesters, one of the things about pre-med is just, it's all a lot, like kind of fast. So, you have your prereqs got to be done by the time you take your MCAT, usually around your junior year. That's a lot of material. So, one semester you'll be taking biology, chemistry, and a neuroscience class all in one, and you have to do, your research, you have to do your volunteering. So a lot of it is just prioritizing your time. Academics kind of becomes the center of your life for a while, and it has to be that way if you want to succeed. So definitely prioritizing. For me, also a lot of like peer pressure. Like if my friends were studying and I was like, I have to study, like I have to make sure I keep up with everything. So it's kind of nice to have friends in those classes with you, just because you guys can all kind of keep each other accountable. So definitely prioritizing and having people there with you for sure gets me through the tough classes.
I absolutely agree with that. It really, time management is a big thing. Now, Jamie, I see you want to answer a question on here. It says, I noticed multiple required courses that included labs. How has COVID/quarantine impacted the completion of those labs as a part of the required coursework?
Yeah, and I think that's, a really smart question. And so I'll talk about it a little bit from the perspective of the professional programs themselves, and then I can let Caroline and Satya talk about what it's like to be in a lab during COVID, because I don't have to do that. The professional schools, med schools especially, have been extremely understanding of the current circumstance. So normally programs would not accept online labs. When we first, kind of closed everything down in March, there were no other options. And so almost every lab had to transition to online, and the medical schools, blanket accepted them across the board. As we're kind of progressing through this, some labs are online, some labs are in person, kind of depends on which class it is. But again, the professional schools are being very responsive to the current state of education right now, and they're willing to accept online or be more flexible if students are taking courses out of sequence, for example, if they're taking it during a summer because there weren't enough spots in a spring semester to get into an upper level lab. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that side of it. What's it like to be in a lab during COVID? Caroline and Satya can talk about kind of what that looks like.
Sadia, do you want to kind of start that off, since I believe you said you were a TA, right?
Yeah, so I taught, I'm not doing it the coming semester, but I did it the last 2 semesters. I taught the Organic Chemistry 2 lab as a TA. So in the normal semester, we'd have about 20 students. In the last, after COVID, we went online for a bit, and now in the fall, we brought it down to 10 students. So it was actually a lot more individual. I felt like I could have more one-on-one time and help students more individually with what they're struggling with. But I don't think it really affected the quality of the course, because we still did the same experiments. We still had the same amount of time for those experiments. It was just kind of shortened in terms of the schedule. And then I actually took genetics lab this semester. So I kind of know what it is like to be in the lab. So we had an online section, and then we also had an in-person section for half of the semester. And I didn't think it was too bad. The online stuff was actually pretty intensive, and there was a lot of stuff that we had to do. So it wasn't online, just it's a breeze, it's easy. So I for one of the experiments, I actually spent 2 or 3 days just working on the report and working on investigating and stuff like that. So it's I don't think it's impacted it too much. I think the instructors have done a really good job in kind of molding their courses to fit with that online and in-person kind of schedule.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Caroline, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
I do know, as far as whether or not some labs are in person, I know Dr. Mars's K101 lab, she does 1 week in, 1 week out, and she switches the students around, which I think is a really good idea, because sometimes biology labs are a little bit easier in person. So I think it's really nice that some of the programs do that. I recently just took a physics lab online. That was pretty weird. It was really smart though. Our professors, instead of, because normally, we'd be in the lab, I don't know, dropping balls off buildings and stuff, but they had us run a bunch of online simulations that were really, really nice, because you could pause it and stuff like that. So there are some pros to having online labs. I definitely felt like I got a lot more done with the physics ones, just because I was able to pause stuff and rerun stuff, rather than being in person and having set everything up again and then just watch really closely or something like that. So yeah, I would agree with that though. Yeah, IUPUI is doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all agree on that one. It's definitely a difficult time, and I think they've handled it and adjusted quite well. So next question, it's a great one for both of you actually. So Anonymous wants to ask, I'd like to ask the students, why did they choose IUPUI over other schools they applied to? So Caroline, you want to start it off?
Yeah, sure. I love IUPUI. So for me, honestly, I mean, you really IUPUI, you step out on the campus, you cannot throw a rock without hitting a hospital. You know what I mean? There's just so many opportunities. There's 3 or 4 hospitals surrounding us. It was so easy for me. I started volunteering in an ER. I started learning stuff. And it's really great too, because of that, a lot of our clubs on campus and whatnot, they have a lot of partnerships with those, communities and stuff. So you can go volunteer at a clinic or become a scribe or go shadow. And it's easier than it would be at any other college, just because of how close in proximity everything is. And again, how close IUPUI even works with those hospitals and stuff. And the same goes for research. When there's hospitals, there's research. So
That's absolutely true. So Satya, it's a little bit different for you since you are international. So do you want to kind of give your thought process behind picking IUPUI?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So first of all, as an international student, one of the main things you really think about when you're choosing a university, especially for undergrad, is cost, because as an international student in the US, it costs a lot to go to university. So that was one of the factors in choosing IUPUI, because for me, based on the colleges I got into, IUPUI was the best in terms of value. The second thing was that based on all of the programs that IUPUI has put, like this one, I've kind of understood there's a lot of research opportunities, and through my experience at IUPUI, it's kind of been the story is that I've had a lot of research opportunities, and I think that even the students who are here don't understand how many research opportunities they have. And then the third thing is that Indiana is you could say it's like a farm state. And I actually had an opportunity last week where I shadowed a farm vet, which was pretty cool. So that was one of the factors as well. I'd never actually been on a farm and shadowed a farm and worked on a farm. So I thought that would be a pretty interesting and novel experience, especially when it comes to applying for vet school.
That's actually really cool. Congrats on that. All right, so you both are actually in Honors College, if I remember correctly. So we have a question that says, I'd like to know more about how the Honors College works. Are there more classes, more rigor? Do you think being in the Honors College as a freshman majoring in neuroscience is too much? I guess that'd be more for you, Caroline, on that end for that one. And also, if I don't want to join my freshman year, do I have to reapply to join for later? I'll do that bit real quick. So with this, for the Honors College, you don't have to apply your freshman year. You can apply afterwards as long as you have a 3.75 GPA. And the process after that is, again, just make sure you have a 3.75. And then they kind of have another admission for that. And I see Jamie did you just unmute yourself for that one? So she's got a little bit to add into it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, there are only so many students who could be accepted into what we call the Science Honors Program, which is when you are accepted into honors after your freshman year. It is extremely competitive. If you think that you want to do honors, I would suggest going in your freshman year. It will be significantly easier to get in.
Thank you for that, Jamie. So Caroline, I guess, if you want to answer, do you think being in Honors College as a freshman majoring in neuroscience is too much?
Yeah, I did not personally think it was too much, just because of how, I don't want to say easy, but like your professors are really prepared to work with you. Like they understand, they get it. Freshman year honors projects, like stuff like that, it can be really difficult. So normally what happens is, I think in order to graduate with the Honors College, you have to have 24 honors credits. And normally you do that like one honors class a semester. So sometimes it might happen that, like, let's say, you're taking this one biology class, and at the same time, there's another class that's honors that you want to do, but you can't do it. The Honors College does this thing called honors like contracts. So you're allowed to talk to a professor in a class that's not originally classified as honors and like make it an honors class. So I do that all the time because it just makes it a lot easier for me, because it's almost like I'm able to choose the things I'm interested in and then do a project over it. So I know this past semester I was for biochemistry for me, and my professor, she was really awesome. She was like, yeah, sure, like just, do an honors project for this class and we'll give you honors for it. And so I just had to go like attend, I think 5 seminars and write papers over them. And it was really interesting. I learned a lot of stuff from attending those seminars, and it was actually really fun. So that's kind of why I would say that doing honors as a freshman, even like in neuroscience and everything, it'll probably be more beneficial for you than it'll be like more holding you back, just because you get extra experiences almost that help you learn. So.
Thank you for that. Sadia, do you have anything to add about that?
Sure. I mean, I just want to clarify. So what Carolina was talking about. So when you get into the Honors College, you basically have 2 options. You can either choose a class that is classified as an honors class, or you can choose to do an honors contract, like Caroline said. And so, you don't always have the opportunity to choose an honors class. So I've, always done honors contracts, and I think it's been pretty challenging. I don't think it's like difficult, but it's just, you need to understand how to find the right resources. Like everything's there for you. You just need to realize how to navigate it. So I don't think it's too much or too difficult.
Thank you guys for that. So I see this one's a good one for you, Jamie. What about work opportunities for dentistry?
Yeah, so A lot of our students will try and do research with a dentist at the dental school, or might look for opportunities to get more experience in a dental setting. And so that might mean something like, working in a dentist office. Typically, it's not something as high level as like a hygienist, because that requires, there's actually a bachelor's degree to become a dental hygienist. But, I have tons of pre-dental students who are doing, they do all of their shadowing in a dental setting, but they don't necessarily work in a dental setting. So they might be doing, working as a peer-led team leader, or like a teaching assistant. They might be, working somewhere else on campus. They might be doing research for pay. There are lots of opportunities. And again, that's kind of why I say, like, everybody's path is unique. It's about what are you learning from those experiences as you go, and how can you apply them to dentistry. And so if there's something that you're, particularly interested in, when you get to campus, schedule an appointment with our office and we can talk about opportunities based on, where you're at, how much experience you have, where do you live, what do you want to do, and find out what makes the most sense for you.
Thank you, Jamie. So I guess I can answer this one real quick. Is there a specific dorm that science students tend to live in? So it's not like a specific dorm. We do have pretty much 3 that they typically focus on. So there is a STEM floor in North Hall, and on extension of that, there's also the Women in Science and Engineering in North Hall as well. So North Hall is definitely a building that a lot of students like because it is our most recent housing. Now, for Women in Science, we also have the Women in Science House. It's also called Wish, and that is in the Riverwalk Apartments. So a stipend does actually come with that as well. So you're mostly surrounded by other women in science. So it's very great, especially for maybe freshmen that want to have kind of a mentorship with that. There's also the Purdue House, which is also with the Riverwalk Apartments. I do believe that's a little bit more primarily filled with like School of Engineering and Technology students. But again, actually all of our science degrees, with the exception of Earth Science, are Purdue degrees. So you'd fit in quite well there. So it really just depends on kind of what you're seeking from what you're doing. And I see Jamie wants to add a little bit on here. So.
I didn't realize I had unmuted myself. So.
Okay, we're okay. Then yeah, there you go. That's the answer to that one. Now, so Jamie, I guess this would be a really good one for you, ironically, since you just muted your mic. But do I necessarily have to join the honors college if I want to graduate with honors?
So it depends on if you're talking about an honors distinction or if you're talking about Latin honors. So at the undergraduate level, you can, depending upon the GPA that you graduate with, you can get, summa cum laude or cum laude or whatever. That has nothing to do with the honors college. That's strictly based on your GPA. If you want to graduate with an honors designation, then yes, you have to be part of the honors college.
Good to know. Thank you. And Lori actually just put a little bit of information in the chat about that. So she said all students have the ability to graduate with distinction. That is different from honors. And she put a link in the chat for you guys to look at if you'd like. Now, last question here. So if you guys have anything else you want to send in the Q&A, if you want to, you can do that real quick and I'll get to it as quick as I can. So this one says, how do you deal with safety with IUPUI being in the city? Personally, I've never really had an issue because IUPUI is kind of like its own little ecosystem. So while you might have the city right there, quite often you don't really see anybody else that's from the city in there. And I believe Lori, she actually is in the one that I just mentioned in the chat. She said that she used to drive by IUPUI all the time for work. And then when she actually got a job here, she was like, oh, this is kind of what's over here. So it's like they never really strayed into that path. But also we've got emergency call buttons that are kind of littered throughout everywhere. And then if you also feel like a little bit unsafe walking alone at night, which is absolutely valid, we have a IUPUI Safe Walk. And so it's really, I personally think it's a very safe environment. They kind of give you the opportunities should you find yourself needing them. So if you guys have anything else to answer or kind of supply to that, you're more than welcome to. But in my personal opinion, I've had no run-ins with issues on safety. So thankfully.
Yeah, so I worked at a couple of urban campuses, and IUPUI is definitely one where I don't notice safety issues. And I think part of that is like Indianapolis is kind of what I like to refer to as like a small town, big city. Like, it's a metropolitan area. There's a lot going on, but if you walk around downtown, it doesn't feel like Chicago. There's not these like towering buildings everywhere. So being in an urban environment doesn't necessarily always equate to being in an unsafe environment. And we just typically don't have the same kind of safety issues that I've had on other campuses.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we've got one more, and Jamie, I think you're a great one for this one. So what kind of on-campus work opportunities are there for computer science students?
That's a great question. So we actually, in the School of Science, we have our own IT department. We have a handful of computer science students who work in the IT department every year. In fact, one of my freshmen from my first year seminar has been working in the IT department for the second semester of his freshman year, and he's going to graduate in May. So there are lots of other opportunities on campus specific for computer science students, but there are some, specifically within the School of Science that I think can be really great. IUPUI, which is our university-wide IT department. There's computer labs and things like that across campus. And then there's also opportunities where you might be working in a departmental office on campus, but doing computer science related stuff. So it just kind of depends on what you're interested in.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, Laura, I just saw your question in there, and that's a pretty good one that I can also answer. So what kind of work study opportunities are there for forensics majors? So this really just depends on kind of if they're work study opportunities. So we have like an actual website that divvies up jobs by if they're work study opportunities or if they're just, regular pay. So you actually have to apply for work study through, I always say FAFSA or FOSFA, I guess however you want to say it. So it really just depends on that. So if you get that, there are opportunities in the forensics department for it. I know one of my friends actually went to one of our professors and said, hey, I'd love to work for you. And she did a whole bunch of stuff for the microscopy lab. So she was setting up slides and things like that. So that was considered a work study opportunity. So really, it just depends. If you don't kind of find one on the website, you're more than welcome to kind of approach your teacher and kind of ask for any opportunity that you might want. So those are the options that you have forensics wise. So now there is a question in here that Lori wanted me to kind of also bring up real quick, just in case. Gotta find it again. Here it is. So what is the process for declaring your major and minor when we join IUPUI? So Lori mentioned, once you apply, you kind of declare your major right then and there. And you can also declare your minors once you're on campus. However, she also wanted to say that if you are a direct admit to the School of Science, you don't need to do anything. If you are admitted as a science major to the University College at IUPUI, you will apply for the School of Science after your freshman year, and you have taken your intro major courses and kind of maintained a 2.0 GPA. And then, okay, somebody else said, how likely is it that I will secure an IUPUI job? Do you mean as a student or after you graduate? Student, okay. Everybody who's applied for a job that I've known and that are work study, anything like that, have gotten a job pretty quickly. So I see Caroline shaking her head as well. You've got so many opportunities, whether it's being like a TA, recitation leader, things like that. Again, you do have to be approached for those ones, but if you just applied for them through the actual like JAG jobs and things like that, I believe that's what it's still called. It's been a while since I've used it, but that's an opportunity. So you've got a whole bunch of opportunities on that end. And Lori also says work study jobs are plentiful. Be sure to check the work study option on your FAFSA. The email information we will have on the very last slide. So after this, so I don't see any more questions for anybody else. Do you guys have anything that you might want to say before we end the student panel session? Getting crickets. Okay, perfect to know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start sharing my screen once more. So let me pull that up. Again, we know your guys' time is very valuable. So I do want to thank my panel, Jamie, Caroline, and Sadia for joining us today, and to all of you that are also tuned in. So thank you. We're very excited that you guys are considering IUPUI, and we can't wait to share more with you guys. So we're going to do this again in 2 weeks, so January 20th, and then again on February 3rd. So the January 20th, we'll be talking specifically about science student life. So that's like clubs, resources, housing, and really all the fun things that are kind of located right here in our backyard, downtown Indianapolis. And then on February 3rd, we'll be talking with a researcher here on campus, and then also current students who are involved in research. So you guys can find out kind of what's available and how to get involved. That might be also a great opportunity for those that are pre-professional students who are interested in research. And if you guys haven't signed up already, the link to sign up for these dates is going to be in the chat. So Lori will be sending that. So we'll see you guys there if you want to sign up for more. And then lastly, before I do log off, there is going to be a survey that will pop up when I end the event. So if you guys want to take a couple of minutes to provide us some information and some feedback, kind of let us know what you want to know so we can plan for the future events, that would be much appreciated. So if you guys want to check your email tomorrow for a follow-up to this event with links to learn more and how you can speak with our recruiter, Lori Hart, so you guys can see more virtual science visit opportunities, or kind of plan an on-campus tour when we reopen those in February. You're more than welcome to email us at science@iupui.edu or Lori Hart's email, which is right over there. So if you guys have, again, any questions, you're more than welcome to email us or get a hold of us in whatever way you see fit. So guys, stay healthy and happy. So thank you guys for tuning in so much. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.